Mr. President, we would like to thank the Deputy Special Coordinator of the United Nations for the Middle East Peace Process, Ramiz Alakbarov, for the comprehensive report on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory in the context of implementation of Security Council Resolution 2334. Unfortunately, as is evident from your report, that we had no grounds for optimism and we continue to have no grounds for optimism. Not only is the resolution not being enforced, but it is blatantly being flouted. In mid-August, the Israeli government unsurfaced plans to rekindle the plan for settlement building in the E1 zone in the West Bank. This imperils the prospects for two-state solution. If implementing this design is carried out, costing billions of dollars, providing for the construction of 3,412 housing units and the construction of new roads and infrastructure objects, the West Bank would be divided into two sections. East Jerusalem would be severed from the remaining part of Palestinian territory. What is most clear is the intention of the intention behind this plan was clearly explained by the Israeli Minister for Finances, Bezalel Smotrich, who said, not without pride, that, I quote, this would bury the idea of Palestinian statehood. And at the same time, those who today assert that illegal settlement activity was a response to the 7 October terrorist attacks are blatantly being disingenuous. All of this is a part of a long-term strategy which has for many years been continuously advanced by religious ultranationalists as they seek to justify violations of international law with references to the Old Testament. They are attributing to Israel the sacred right to these lands, and the Palestinians in their picture of the world are merely excess persons who have no place in what they call Judea and Samaria. For this reason, we should not be surprised at the fact that just in the notorious E1 zone, since 2009, 900 Palestinians have been forcibly expelled and more than 500 homes were demolished, including 200 buildings that were erected with funds from international donors. There have been clumsy attempts to justify threats of annexation with the recent wave of recognition of Palestine by a number of Western states. And these steps came out as a result of the deliberate policy of West Jerusalem to derail the two-state solution and not the opposite. Mr. President, plans to build new settlements would have been impossible without reliance on fanatical settlers who are willing to inflict any violence against the Palestinian population. Nor should we be misled and by thinking that they are acting on their own accord. The settlers are receiving unconditional support from the authorities. From Israeli law enforcement bodies are either turning a blind eye to the crimes which they are perpetrating or are complicit in these crimes. Furthermore, millions of dollars are being earmarked by the Israeli government to equip and to arm the settlers in order for them to expel the Palestinians from their lands. The Russian Federation strongly condemns illegal settlement construction on the OPT, violence by extremist settlers, as well as incitement and inflammatory language. We demand that Israel revert back to strict compliance with Security Council Resolution 2334 and for Israel to issue further plans for annexation of the West Bank. Last week, the international community clearly demonstrated its unstinting commitment to the two-state solution, both at the International High-Level Conference and during statements delivered during the general debate. And the President of the United States, Donald Trump, during a meeting with senior delegates from a number of Arab Muslim states on the sidelines of High-Level Week to discuss Middle East settlement, emphasized that he would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. And we should like to hope that these words will be followed up by concrete action. Washington's involvement in international efforts to resolve the protracted Palestinian-Israeli conflict on the well-known international legal basis is vitally important in order to reverse the tragedy which is unfolding before our very eyes. For it is indeed the unconditional U.S. support which has up until now allowed Israel to maintain a carte blanche without being held accountable in any way. As historical experience has shown, West Jerusalem only embraced peace agreements when a strong and principled leader held office in the White House, a leader willing to take bold decisions for the sake of achievement of peace. We hope that the present U.S. delegation will indeed undertake the necessary efforts and will halt Israel's illegal acts. Mr. President, the position of the Russian Federation on Palestinian-Israeli settlement is principled in nature, and it is not determined by short-sighted political agitation. We consistently advocate the immediate, unconditional, comprehensive ceasefire, the release of hostages and forcibly detained persons, provision for the security for safe and unimpeded humanitarian access in accordance with well-known guiding principles, the relaunch of the peace process on the well-known, universally recognized international legal basis with the core two-state formula, which provides for the protection of the basic rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination and return, and upholds their just aspiration to their own independent and viable state within the 1967 borders, with a capital in East Jerusalem, coexisting in peace and security with Israel. The Palestinians deserve to have their own state, no less than the Israelis deserve to have theirs. Respect for their rights is the only possible choice for any conscientious member of the international community. Disregard of this is directly harmful to Israel itself. Israel, which is interested in reliably providing for its own security, achievement of this objective at the expense of the interests of the Palestinians and Israel's Arab neighbors will fail. And the sooner West Jerusalem recognizes this, the better. Thank you.